A very good morning to you all. Welcome again to Sunrise Daily today. I'm Chamberlain.
Oh, absolutely. I'm Kaido Kikyolu.
It's a beautiful Thursday morning. I'm Ayo Makinde. Stop looking at me like that, guys. Come on.
Well,
Okay, go ahead.
I'm quite looking at me. Well, the only thing that stands out to me, we've been talking about production, being a productive nation and all of that. Even though, the details are, not as voluminous as one would expect, but the fact that some ministry were able to make mobile cell phones and present to the president, well, it's outstanding in a way. The only question, well, of course, there are a ton of questions to ask about that, and that's just one sector. I remember on more than one occasion when we have Jide Ogunsanwo here, one of us said, what are the things that we export as a nation? The only thing that comes out is groundnuts. And it's the biggest thing that is the biggest, thing that Nigeria, exports and all of that. And I'm just wondering, I'm pretty sure that we are capable of a lot more than that, and whatever ministry or department or agency it is, I'm very sure that we are a lot capable of so much more than that. Question is, what are we doing about that? You remember, I don't know which agency of government it was that was supposed to defend a budget or something, and the ministry, about 30 years old or so, was invited, and the head of the agency was saying the only thing they've been able to produce is a machine that processes kilishi after 30 years. Well, maybe that's a good thing, but the question I'm asking is, I'm very sure we're capable of a lot more. What is keeping us from doing what we need to do to make the nation great?
Everybody knows that. Okay, go ahead.
I mean, big question. That's like the question of the year, of the century. But we export a lot of things. I mean, you can count them. There are a lot of them. Definitely not as much as we would love to export. I mean,
that's not to say that we do not have the capacity to do a lot more.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, and Nigerian products are actually respected in court because they're richer. I mean, you see a lot of Nigerians telling you, please help me pack that bundle of, yams, vegetable, and the list goes on and on. So clearly there's a demand for it outside of the country, not just from Nigerians. But when you ask that, I mean, why haven't we done as good as we should do? I'll just step into uncharted waters this morning. Okay. Don't shoot me. I was thinking that, countries have different timelines of development. And I think there's a tendency to want to... It's natural because it's a global village now. So we look at other countries, see what they're doing and say, okay, we ought to be like this. This is where we should be. It is okay. It's good to at least aspire, but we need to appreciate where we are as a nation, who we are as a nation first, then where we are, what we are capable of doing, and then build from there. I don't think it's right to always try to copy notes from other countries word for word. I mean, that's exam malpractice, literally. But the point here really is to understand who we are as a country. I mean, that's only what sells. Every other country is taken, but Nigeria is a special country, and we have things peculiar to Nigeria, things that will sell. Then you see that mobile phone. I know there's a debate ongoing about whether or not this is where we should be right now, but clearly that is where we are. So we need to appreciate who we are, like I said, where we are and how we can move forward from there. I know it's a mixed bag, really, but like you said, there's so much more to Nigeria, and we can make it work.
Yeah, and if you look at some of the dailies here today, you see so many things that are pulling at the core of perhaps just pointing towards what needs to be addressed. And we're going to move right on and take a look at what the dailies are talking about today. Look at Nigerian Tribune, for instance. Obasanjo to Nigerians, shun agitation for disintegration. So all of those drums that you've been hearing for a while now, this is the latest coming from the former president. Says, I believe it will cost us less to work for our unity. There are many things wrong, but those things are correctable if we make efforts to correct them and hold us together than what it will cost us to break up and be perpetually at war and all our money will be spent in building an army. I know what an army contains. I know what it means to keep an army that may not be productive. Let us think about it. So, there you go. That's the big one on the front page there. And speaking about security, you get to see right beneath that lead story, reps move to legalize state security outfits. So perhaps when you read that, you see, okay, I mean, different states already have some form of security outfit or the other. So perhaps you need to just check this out and see. And then you see the writer, ask Buhari to recruit massively into security agencies, want mobile police patrol bases in troubled communities. So, yeah, that's what you see there. NAS can enact new constitution. So many also speaking about that. Protest again, as Buhari represents Onoche as INEC commissioner. Positions empty will seem to be filled. So there you see that one again. And then several other stories. But that's Tribune today.
Well, for Vanguard, the lead story is Twitter. Twitter reached out, seeks top-level talks. And that statement is credited to Lai Mohammed. And we'll take a look at the writers. Twitter reached out to me Wednesday morning, says Information Minister. Adds all OTTs must be licensed. Freedom of speech not hurt by Twitter ban, he says. Reverse ban, US aid. Yeah. Keep tweeting, NAS Joint Minority Caucus tells Nigerians. You see Abaribe Elumelu blast APC government. ActionAid saying ban insecurity, not Twitter. You see a group Nigerians can take AGF up in court, says Bashir, Senate spokesman. So that's just some of the angles to that lead story on the front page of the Vanguard. And as you can see, the picture there shows President Buhari receiving made in Nigeria cell phone. And they say it's from locally sourced components. And that was facilitated by the Ministry Industrial Training Funds Model Skills Training Center. So that's that picture which we talked about earlier. But see this one. Residents flee as troops raid ESN camps in Imo. Agitation for secession, idiotic, selfish, OBJ. That's on page 11. So, different terms now. There's self-determination, there's secession, and some other terms. So you might want to find out more details on this one. That's on page 11, like I said. But this one, just so we don't look over it, because it is big. Jusun suspends 2-month strike, orders members to resume work Monday. It's on page 8. Now, the implication of that clearly is that the courts will be back for months now, actually. Jusun has been on strike, and you know what that means to justice, essentially. So this is actually a big one. I would have loved for Jusun to be back today, because I can imagine the backlog of cases anyway, but they say Monday. So we'll have to wait Thursday, Friday, then Monday. But I believe it's a good one, and I really hope we don't go down this path again. Let me quickly take you through sports.
Well, is it likely to be Monday, since June 12 is Saturday, and it's supposed to be a public holiday?
To be fair, we've lost so much time. We've had like 2 months holiday, so to speak. But, I mean, you're right in that. I doubt it.
Exactly. So that's why when they said resume on Monday.
But like I said, I think it's... Let's just sacrifice that holiday. See, sports. I know some will say, take Mr. and Mrs. So let me just see. No woman can break my heart. That's Mr. My heart survived 25 girlfriends, 12 fiancés, and 2 ex-wives. Guess what Mrs. says? Mr. Man, you need a heart transplant. Mr. Man was mine. She basically said you need a heart transplant. So quickly, sports, you see, Raw will lead us nowhere, Owolabi. But take a look at what Raw says. It says, Eagles will be difficult to stop in World Cup qualifiers. So, and just one more. Kamaru arrives in Nigeria. So, yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Today? I hope you'll be praying, fingers crossed, the road is
Hope it's not passing through, should it? The Guardian newspaper this morning.
Passing through what?
Through what,
is
the airwaves?
leading with why currency crisis, economy worsened despite high oil prices. Why are you guys looking
That's
at me
not what
that
he's
way?
passing through, is it?
That's the lead of the Guardian newspaper this morning. 2020 fiscal deficit stands at 6.6 trillion naira as debt hits 33.1 trillion. FX rate may hit 700 naira per dollar before next year. Whoa. Who is saying that? Well, it's on the inside pages, I believe. Continues on the inside pages. Political industry. Didn't know there was such a thing. That's in 2023 to add more pressure, says Opelua. Naira can't be stable without market transparency, says ex-CBN director. And reps urge hold in free fall of Naira value to dollar and other currencies. One needs to really begin to ask the questions. Why is this happening? Yesterday it was already over 500 Naira to the dollar.
I mean, really, I think we make it look like rocket science, but it isn't. The dollar is the dollar, the way the dollar is, because of what we use the dollar for. And, you know, it's a whole lot of topics, so let's get
But it's not even also stopping the pound, don't forget.
Yeah, and that's something a lot of people don't talk about.
Which is worse. Well, that's the lead of the Guardian newspaper this
Means we
morning.
don't use so much of the pounds, right?
Yeah, but people actually do. But not as much. Yeah.
It's the pound, then the euro,
don't-
then the dollar.
Don't forget the Canadian dollar as well.
Can you just be nice?
Yeah, but you know the Canadian dollar, when you get there, they tell you, no, it's 1 to 1. 1 to US dollar. And you'll be like, well, what
That's
do you
not
mean?
what. That's not what it is in
Nigeria.
Nigeria.
You can't tell me that. But that's what they tell you when you're over there. So, but, yeah.
When is it going to be 1 naira to $1 again?
What if you roll back the hands of time? Yeah,
You'll
get there.
Is there a time machine somewhere?
Come on, you talk about that now. 1980s or what? Did I hear you? Oh, okay, you don't want to go there today.
Oh, God.
Okay, well, you can go to my point.
It's heartbreaking. It's heartbreaking.
Good morning, Markwe.
Good morning, Nigerians. Let's take a look at what Daily Trust has on the front page for you. Federal government, Twitter, Facebook, others must get license from NBC. Says registration with CAC mandatory. Despite making billions, Twitter pays no tax. They've contacted us for dialogue. That's according to the information minister, Lai. Trump urges other countries to emulate Nigeria. Well, you find all the details on page 5 of the paper. No comments. I mean, absolutely no comments. I'm reading it just as I see it. No extra words from me. Just beneath the nameplate. Then laughter doesn't count. 500 killed, 201 kidnapped in my constituency. That's according to a representative from Kebbi State. Yeah, there was a very big, I don't want to say massacre, because that word is quite heavy. But a lot of people lost their lives a few days ago in Kebbi. And it was just underneath the news, underneath the radar. It was there, but not quite there. About 88 people, I think, at the last count, lost their lives. You understand that they were members of a vigilante group when Gusau, the capital of Zamfara, was attacked. 88 people lost their lives. But look at this. I mean, the neighbors, 500 killed, 201 kidnapped in my constituency. That's according to a representative from Kebbi State. Maybe I'm mixing up a village and the capital of Zamfara. But I know that there was an attack on Gusau and it was also an attack in Kebbi State. FEC approves 895.5 billion naira supplementary budget for military, COVID-19. So that's on page 29. Biafra Oduduwa agitators are idiots. That's according to Obasanjo. You might want to read details on page 31, just in case you're wondering what that thing is. The picture, what it looks like. It looks like the roof of a hut. But no, that roof of a hut is made, it's not made out of thatch. It's made out of arms, guns. That's what you can see there. The illegal firearms voluntarily surrendered by civilians in Kenya for the government amnesty since 2020, which were piled to be burned yesterday. You also see a number of other stories there. INEC, Senate under attack over resolution to screen Buhari's aid on a chair. It's on page 32. And you look at this. Despite darkness, Nigeria to sell unused power to 4 countries. The big question is, which power is unused? Because from what we understand now, we're producing less than 3,000 megawatts on the grid. So I don't understand which power is unused and what leftover do we have to sell to other countries when we have not finished feeding, right here in our own country. And let's leave it there for Daily Trust newspapers.
Well, yeah, those are serious issues. I mean, they keep talking about the capacity of the grid, to accommodate, and then they'll tell you, well, is it TCN or Discos? Why are they not evacuating? And if they're evacuating, why are Discos not receiving? So it's like a cycle. But, it's the consumers like us that are usually at the end, always getting the short end of the stick. Because the bills will keep coming.
Oh, absolutely.
Estimated ones at that.
Whether it's estimated
or not, or premeditated, it just comes. Take a look at Blueprint next. That's the one you see here this morning. I'm ready to die in the hands of kidnappers. El Rufai's wife says paying ransom is like adding kerosene to fire. Abductors demand 10 million naira for Unijust lecturers' freedom. Okay, so you may want to go and see context with which this was raised. And so, but at the bottom strip, they refer to some of the other stories you may have seen previously. Jusun holds 3-month-old strike. ASUP 2 months after. Yeah, that's what you see there. And then, what above that nameplate, you see several other stories on the front page of Blueprint today.
Take a look at Nigerian News Direct lead story, March update. FG 36 states FCT debts hit 33.11 trillion naira. That's according to the DMO. Says domestic debt service gulped 612.7 billion naira in Q1. So page 2 for more details. Just putting a lot of things in perspective here. I see page 3 contains a story on internet usage. Says NCC charges Nigerian youths on responsible internet usage. So will there be like a rule book or a style guide or something, or a law really that spells these things out? Because
what responsible use is?
Yes. So because responsible can be very wide.
It's subjective.
Yeah, so. Because I remember the Minister of Foreign Affairs also, using that term, responsible usage. So it looks like that's the direction now. It's important, really, to have that responsible use, but it needs to be black and white as well.
Well, I know some countries that provided the internet is a human right, and it's a law. Some of the Scandinavian countries.
The interesting part is, once you say right to this, right to that, you see people coming to say, well, yes, you have the right, but...
Yeah, but no right is absolute.
Where your right ends.
They shouldn't be quid to the bots because they both go together. So, they both go together. In the same way, if you're demanding taxes, remember where you collect the tax, but you need to do certain things too. It's
like a contract of sorts.
I think it's also important for government to even track why are people discontented. If we know it, why aren't we doing what we're supposed to do? Every country in the world has had to, one way or the other, battle the challenge of social media and all of that. We talked the other time about the rise of the naira, of the dollar against the naira. Why is that happening? We talked just a little while ago that we are not producing as we ought to produce. Why is that the case? Poverty figures, unemployment figures, and people are unhappy with government. Isn't that something that government should at least, because if people are happy, we asked, May 29, the people to make comments. People mentioned specific governors and what they have been doing in their states. And we also know what people say or didn't say about the government at the center. I think those are things that government should also speak to. Otherwise, we just seem to be winking in the dark, so to speak. Leadership newspaper this morning is interested in insecurity. Time running out on Nigeria. Abdusalami Sultan Onayekan warned. Our stories on page 4 say it's time for action as northern senators push for quick resolution of crisis. Obasanjo asks secession agitators to rethink. Bandits killed 500, abducted 201 in Kebbi, according to a representative. Find out the details on the inside pages, page 4 to be specific. And right under the nameplate, FG approves 895.5 billion naira supplementary budget for military. Is this what the former President Obasanjo was saying when he said that all of that money goes to the military?
Well, maybe we'll already started to be sure. We'll double check.
Okay. Well, other stories on the front page. Senate passes 58 bills out of 742 in 2 years.
Whoa. 58 out of 742. What's that?
That's not up to 10%.
But they usually give themselves pass mark.
Well, maybe because, you've never been in the National Assembly, so you don't know how cumbersome the process is. You have to go through so many bills, public hearing, and, all of that. So you don't know what it is.
But I only know what you just read now. 54 out of 700. That figure will speak for itself, don't you think? Well,
that's the leadership newspaper this morning.
Is that pass?
Well, if below 10%.
It's actually something.
Didn't you read the speech that they were giving about how they performed?
But if you were given a whole, I think it's a Yoruba saying, you most likely just hold towards yourself. So.
Yeah, when you're farming, you don't hold it in reverse. Mark, please.
Maybe I need to read that figure responsibly.
Whatever figures you guys are reading, please read responsibly, I beg you. New Telegraph has this one. Take a look. Twitter, is that stroke VPN? Twitter/VPN? I don't know. Experts affirm Nigeria's global vulnerability. So if you're looking at the fact that many Nigerians are bypassing or going behind and using VPN, they're affirming that, we are making ourselves, or we have become vulnerable. Experts affirm Nigeria's global vulnerability. Economy, security, open to attacks. It will worsen employment, deter investors, as according to Onyekbere. Political, diplomatic consequences of ban. It's in parentheses. It doesn't say much other than that. It's on page 2 of the paper for you, in case you'd like to read it. You have a number of other stories here. Nigeria's total debt stock hits 33.107 trillion naira. That's according to the Debt Management Office. 6 restructuring of 39 billion naira World Bank loans. And if you look at the bottom here, FEC OK's 895.5 billion naira supplementary budget for military COVID-19. Federal government to borrow 722 billion naira to fund security component. It's all on page 3 of the paper. Obasanjo to secessionists. It's idiotic for Nigeria to disintegrate now. So you find some papers saying those who want to secede are idiots, and you find this to being attributed. It's idiotic for Nigeria to disintegrate now. So you have to look at context sometimes. It's very important to look at that. Page 4 is where you find details. And if you look at just beneath the nameplate there, Omahi, external forces not liable for Southeast's insecurity. This one might pique your interest. Don't pay ransom if I'm kidnapped. That's according to Mrs. El Rafai. She says she's ready to die. That's what New Telegraph reports. Not my words. Let's leave it there for the paper.
Yeah, we sure will as well for the segment. We'll be back in just a moment. Stay with us.
Armed with placards and finding motivation in their songs, these students of Cardona State University are at the entrance of the State House of Assembly complex. This is the second time in 1 week that they will be out to show their displeasure over the state government's decision to increase their school fees. During their last demonstration, the state deputy governor called for calm, giving justification for the decision of the government.
Sometimes, some decisions are taken for the betterment of the generality of the people. We want you to go everywhere and be proud that you actually went to one of the best schools.
But that appears not to go down well with the students, hence this outing.
As we all know that educational institution is not made for revenue generation, and we are calling upon the state legislative arm to know what we are in.
The protesters are not pleased with what they call the silence of state legislators.
Ever since the issue of this tuition fee increment started, they did not raise any motion regarding this tuition fee increment, and they know that majority of the students in Kaduna State University are students that benefited from free education from state government. If someone who attended the state government university cannot afford such kind of money, how do you expect someone to afford 100,000 naira? Most of us are petty traders' children. Some of us are hustlers. Some of us are orphans. Some of us are self-sponsored.
They say they are unperturbed by the closure of their school indefinitely.
If that's the best for everyone, we are okay by it. Because for thousands of students to drop out because they cannot afford 100,000 or 400,000, it's better for the school to be closed down, to be honest. Because it's a public school, it's not a private university, and CASU have existed for so many years, and it has been functioning for so many years.
After hours of waiting for lawmakers to address them, which never came, they resort to prayer. They promise to continue this move till the help they need comes.
All right, welcome back. Yes, indeed. We'll be talking about what some of the reports you just saw at Cardona State University. We've got Sylvanus Balos joining us this morning. He's a student of Cardona State University. Good morning, and thank you for joining us today on the program. Well, yes, the information is out there about the increase in the fees, but we also understand that there's been some negotiation or conversation, dialogue as to what to do, how to address all of this moving forward. Is there any impact being made, any headway? What is the current situation now?
Well, good morning, sir, and thank you for having me. Let me start from prior to date when we get to hear about the increment of the school fees. It was when we were writing exam and it came up in our school portal. And immediately we saw it, students started complaining about it, and the management called us, and yes, they make it official to us that yes, there's an increment in school fees from 26,000 naira to 150,000 naira. That was what we were told. And they asked us to go and pray about it and dialogue, and let's see how it can come to a minimum rate, but that is it. And since then, I remember it was during fasting, the student leaders decided to engage a lot of persons in Kaduna. There is nobody who tried to reach to help, and as it is, nothing came up. We try as much as possible to talk to all the influential persons in the state. But what baffles most of us much was that CASU is a formal institution, but there was no any formal communication towards that. There was nothing formal coming from either the state government or the school concerning the increment. What we just saw was an increment in our portal. And then they now call us and then notify us that yes, there was an increment. And after a few consultations, a few meetings with several people, we were called back by the school and they told us that it has been brought back to 100,000, which is still not doable. And from then they came up with modalities that they are trying to see how they are going to liaise with Ministry of Local Government. They gave us a lot of offers, which going by all those offers that they gave us, it's not doable. The issue is that we are not against increment of this thing, but we started from a school fees of 26,000 naira to 150,000 naira. Who are our parents? This is a state university, for crying out loud. It's a state university. And if you know where we are coming from, it's from Kaduna State, a northern state, for crying out loud, where the economic activity is not as gruesome as that of Lagos. So our parents are petty traders. Most of us sponsored ourselves. Most of us will normally go and do little jobs to raise that 26,000 naira. And just of a sudden is up to 150,000 or 100,000 naira. It's not doable. And since then, we're trying to talk to whoever we think can help. And there was no statement from the government until when the student felt that their student leaders were betraying them, we are not doing what we are supposed to do. They decided to go on protest. And we decided we are not going to allow these students to go into this protest. We must go with them, or else if something happens, it's going to backfire at us. And it was when we came out, the first 3 days, the protest was within the school premises. We just sing and walk. And then we are being called and talked to that, no, this thing is not right. This is not right. We should stop. And it reached a stage whereby the student can no longer say or keep mute. We have to hit the street. We have to follow them. And I think it was when we reached to the federal state secretariat trying to see who we can talk to. We were not allowed in. The security stopped us. They asked us not to go in. And then students start getting angry. They say, okay, since nobody wants to talk to us, let's go to the government house. And we headed to the government house. On our way, we have been stopped by the police. We are not even having access. And then few of our colleagues were called in and they went and they spoke. And that was when the governor came out and said there is no going back concerning the issue of school fees. So it was a big blow to us that more than 2 months we've been consulting, writing letters, trying to get to hear from the governor about the increment and trying to beg him, because what we are doing here is we are just trying to beg. Even the protest is a peaceful demonstration. We are just trying to walk down so that at least somebody could hear us. We are being told to go and pray, to go and meet pastors. We should make use of the Ramadan period and pray about it so that God will touch the heart of whoever that is in charge. We try our best to reach most of the influential people, but there was no any statement from either the government till when we hit the street to protest, and it was after then the governor came out with a statement that no going back, and it hit us badly because all of us were shocked out. So he's aware and he's not saying anything. The only thing we get to hear is no going back, and to be honest, it's not doable. If you could play back most of the interviews you had, most of us check the students that are protesting. Check the students are protesting. We are children of, okay, some of us that will say that our parents are civil servants, they are either retired or at a lower rank. So it's we're in the stage of whereby we cannot afford these school fees. And we are not here fighting, but we are just begging if they can do something about it, please. We cannot afford this thing because you are trying to send, because if this 100,000 naira should stand, what I'm telling you, sir, that 80% of our students will be dropout. 80% of these students will drop out. And the remaining 20, some will be managing. Hello?
We'll get that sorted. Let me just come in here. You said that you were told to go and pray. Was that as a result of some of the consultations you had with some people in authority? I just want to clear that out. Who asked you to go and pray? Can you hear me? Okay, I think we may have lost him, but we'll... Okay, I hear you're muted. Okay, we can hear you now. Please go ahead.
Thank you. Yeah, I said it was when the school authority called us the first time when the issue came up, and they now told us that, okay, this is the decision of the executive, so we should go and pray. And see, yeah, it was during the month of Ramadan. We should take advantage of the month of Ramadan to consult and equally pray about it so that something positive will be done, which we did. We prayed, we fasted during the Ramadan period. Some of the Muslim brethren fasted, even with the Christian, we joined them and we fast about it. We try as much as possible to contact some people who decline. You know, we did what we were able to do and nothing comes out of it. That's why I can imagine how you feel.
And I can imagine how you feel. I mean, having gone through that, thinking, have your prayers been answered or not? But when you talk about the increment, so you say you were paying 26,000 naira. And then you got some prompt or a message on the portal, that's the university website, that it's been increased to 150,000 naira. And then you said that there were some consultations and that was further reduced to 100,000 naira. Am I right?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so as it stands now, the government is saying 100,000 naira or nothing.
Yeah.
Okay, so tell us about the consultations, because you've talked about having consultations with school authorities. You also met with the state government. You said you had at least some interface with the state government. So what were the reasons given for that hike? Because I believe you probably asked why the hike, and what was the conversation like? Well,
I was not part of the delegates that went and saw the deputy governor, but from the reports we got from them was that they want to make the university of a standard to be one among the best.
Okay, the connection is frozen, but we'll try to get Mr. Silvanus Bulus back to at least continue that trail of thought. I mean, says the state government's reason for increasing the fees is to make the school one of the best. So that's about a 300% increase in fees. Imagine people paying 26,000 now paying 100,000. We'll still get the other sides to this, but as it stands right now, this is where we are. The students say 80% of them will drop out if this goes on. And I can imagine what that will do to the security in the state. And I mean, it has a lot of effects, really, spiral effects.
You know, one of the things that he also said, which I want to believe, sincerely, I want to believe that government thought it through. I mean, I want to believe that. Because I don't think any government would want to put its citizens or indigents in any difficult situation, knowing what's going on all over the place. That's what I want to believe. So perhaps the conversation ought to be deeper with the people, between the government and especially the primary public that is affected. But Mr. Bulus also said that they're not particularly against the increment, but 300%, you said, is way too much. It would be nice to know what is it that is bearable. Because according to him, even the 26,000 naira, to get it is already hellish, knowing, their parents, and the parents are definitely, according to him, a good number of them are civil servants, and one wonders what the 30,000 naira minimum wage, even if you scale it up, would do for a family that has maybe 3 children or 4 children in university and all of that. So all those factors.
And the minimum wage that the states themselves say they can't pay.
And then with the spate of the spate of unemployment and job losses, even in virtually every state, including Cardona State, although they said they are also recruiting some other. Exactly. So those issues are there. I want to believe that those things have been thought. Sincerely, it's what I just want to believe that.
Well, it's not just about believing that. It is looking at the figures, what it tells us, because those things are very key. As much as one tries to believe it, but just look at what's before you. Look at the figures before you. So if the students are saying that the authorities there have said there is no going back, you wonder where to go from there. And do the students have the impression that it's been properly thought through? That's equally important.
Actually, that's actually why I'm saying it is important to let people understand. Because look, you got a job to govern. I mean, it's a job. It's not just people who elected us into office. No, the right term is people who give us jobs to superintend over their lives. It's like you got a job to be a parent simply by giving birth to a child. You have responsibility over that child. So I want to believe that conversation took place. If that conversation hasn't taken place, that's crisis waiting to happen.
Well, there are several perspectives to this. We'll see if we can sort this out. But okay. We'll try and, if possible, to get Bolus back, and because there's some unanswered areas that we would like to get clarification on. But now we've got Professor Emmanuel Osodeke, who is the president of Academic Staff Union of Universities. He joins us this morning as well, because some lecturers were sacked, and non-academic staff, I think about 2 of them, making 18. So, Prof, good morning. Thank you for joining us on the program today. Well, about this development with Cardona State, what is the latest information you have about it? Is something being done to ensure that these things are addressed?
Well, are you hearing me?
Yes, we can hear you. Go ahead. Good morning.
Okay. Good morning. Well, it's so sad, and it's a terrible thing that at this time, when the average Nigerian parent can hardly feed, can hardly take care of their children, a governor elected by the people to take care of the interests of the state is increasing school fees by 300%. So it's a horrible thing, and I will stand by the students and will hold the parents and the Kaduna indigenes to rise up against this dictatorial attitude. I have been very prevalent with this governor. So there's a need to check his power. So you need to know that he's working for the people and not working for himself. If you want to change the status of the university, then you fund it properly. See, that is our view. So we stand with the students in their present ongoing struggle.
Well, the another one that I believe another group of people that I believe you're also standing with are the lecturers that are said to have been relieved of their jobs. Exactly what happened? Because one wonders, these things happen from time to time. Is it out of place for the government to do that? What exactly, happened for those who may not be aware?
Well, up till now, none of our members there have been queried. None has been passed through any process, and none has gotten any letter of dismissal. Although we saw that in, we had a copy of that have been trending in the social media. But up till now, none of our members have gotten a letter. But we know it's an attempt by the governor to ensure that passing through the back back door, sacks the executive of our members. If you look at that list, 106 of those members are the executive of person in a castle.
Yeah, but Prof, are you in touch
so
with?
It's an attempt.
Okay.
Whatever it is, we ensure that we stand by our members. We ensure that whatever vice chancellor does it's not implemented.
Well, are you in touch with the vice chancellor? Because there are those who said that well, he perhaps knows a thing or two about what's going on.
My branch there, I have met with the vice chancellor, and he denied it. He denied that he didn't do any such thing. But we don't believe that is correct. But we are still waiting. The branch there is in touch. Our zonal structure is in touch. But he denied that he did not. That letter don't emanate from him. But we don't trust them, knowing the antecedents.
So, what exactly don't you believe is not true?
You see, in a university system, are you following me?
Yes, we can hear you. Go ahead.
The vice chancellor, the governor, do not have any say in the process of recruitment and dismissal of a staff. It is purely the purview of the governing council. It's the governing council that will recruit a staff and that can dismiss or punish a staff following the appropriate processes laid down in the law of that university. And in the law of Cardona State University, there are processes you must pass through before you are dismissed or punished. First, you must be queried. Two, there must be a panel that will look through your process, allow you to defend yourself. And then you go to the governing council, who will also pass through the same process to ensure whether you are guilty or not, to give you a point to defend yourself before actions are taken. But in this particular case, none of our members have been queried. And very significantly, is that out of that list you have, 2 of them were not even in Cardona when that action took place. Well, how they got those names who were not in Cardona at that time is strange.
Okay, so let's talk about that list now. Where did it emanate from? Where is that list from? Because you say there's nothing official. The Vice Chancellor has also denied it. So that list that you're working on, how are you sure it is, original? How are you sure it is true?
Thank you very much. The list, our members were able to have access to it in Cardona. If it is not true, you will know that what the university today is to go out to the press and denounce it that it's not their list. As long as they have not denounced it, it is their own letter. I know if it has happened to you and as an individual, somebody have wrote something about you, you should go and defend it and say this is not true. That's what an government agency and like a university should do. But since they have not denied it, since they are just dancing around it, it shows that there is something up that we have as a union be vigilant and ensure that we then defend our members. It is their duty to go out and denounce what you have on the social media.
Earlier on, you reeled out the process to doing such. You talked about how it has to go through the governing council and different processes. And you say, from what you know, it clearly hasn't gone through that. So can you still say that list should be anything to consider?
Well, if you look at the letter, if you look at it, it's a memo from the university vice chancellor to the governor through the commissioner of education. We have not seen a reply from that memo. If they want to do what some of the governors, like the one in Kogi State, have been doing, the letter will come from somewhere else. Finally, dealing with our members. So that's why we are on the guard. If a vice chancellor agreed to the governor, not to our members, knowing that and all those he wrote there are lies, we believe there's a need for the union and NLC, because that action was carried out by NLC, and we are affiliate of NLC. So while we're also doing this, we're also in talk with NLC to ensure that our members are not victimized unnecessarily for carrying out a legitimate protest against a governor who is doing all sorts of sack people at will, stop payment of salary, increase school fees criminally. I think there is a need for the union and NSC to be on guard. But anything will happen.
the statement that the governor put out on May the 18th, or at least his aide put out regarding that whole the strike by NLC. And the third part says any academic staff of CASU that does not report for work will be dismissed. The authorities of CASU are to submit a copy of the attendance register for all categories of staff daily to the secretary, to the state government, and the commissioner of education. So, I mean, that statement was there. So I understand, why you, of course, are taking this seriously. But also, there was an MOU signed between Labour, the Cardona state government, and, you remember that meeting that happened, that the Ministry of Labour had to intervene. And I think part of the MOU says that the government should not, in some sense, let me just paraphrase, victimize or punish anybody who participates in that particular action. So the terms are there, clearly written. You have talked about the process as well. So in the event that, these are jettisoned, what is your group, your union, what are you planning to do?
Well, that is strategic. We will follow our process and take action. It's strategic. We will watch them. If they take it as a union, we can fight for our members, and we ensure that our members' rights are well protected. The governor have no right whatsoever to indicate, to direct a vice chancellor that deal with somebody who did not come to work at a particular date. I don't think he has that right. As an academic, we have three functions: teaching, research, and community service. So on that day, some of our colleagues must have gone for research somewhere, must have gone on to do a community service. And you say you should sack him because he didn't come to work that day. Academic staff are not like ordinary civil servants. That your work is from 8 in the morning till 4 in the evening. The work of the academy is 24 hours. So that is the difference. So he doesn't have the right to say anybody who did not come to work a particular date, you should punish him. It's not done anywhere in the world. All over the world, it's not done anywhere. Where a professor or a lecturer must come to work between 8 and 4. In many universities, by 6, you are still teaching. By 6, you are teaching. By 8 to 10 in the night, you are grading script. So it doesn't make any sense anywhere. They are just humiliating the Nigerian university system. And I think that should stop. And we should count on media like yours to ensure that this attempt by governors to humiliate the academic, to destroy our system, to make it not competitive with other universities in the world should be stopped in Nigeria. And that's what they are doing. There's no way in the world where a governor or a president will say, sack a lecturer XYZ. It's not done because you are not following the law.
All right, Prof. But has there been any meeting between maybe your leadership and that of the government about the matter? Any scheduled in the future?
There is not for now, because we don't have any business meeting with the governor, because he has no role in the university. He has appointed the governing council that we should interact with. If you have a problem, you should call it governing council. But we are interacting with the university administration, and we do hope that what they are telling us that thing is not correct, that thing is fake, that is actually what they are saying, what it is.
Thank you very much indeed, Prof. We'll be back in just a moment. Don't go away. Welcome back. I think we've got Bulus back. And Bulus, you were making a point about, I don't know if you could still maintain your train of thought. Could you go ahead and conclude that point? Or better still, let me add this so that you could respond to it in addition to what you were going to say. The state, we understand that there is some sort of scholarship scheme going on. Are you aware of that? Are the students approaching them to take advantage of that?
Well, I think, thank you, sir. The issue of scholarship is something that I think is glaring. So you can come to Cardona State University, call 50 students on a random sample and ask them who is benefiting from any scholarship. I bet you, sir, if you can get 5 out of 50, then I'm ready to forfeit my admission for that. The scholarship is on paper. I am currently in my 400 level, and from 100 level to 400 level, there is only one person in my department of over 150 students that have benefited from this scholarship. So the issue of scholarship, they actually brought the issue of scholarship to us, but we know that the scholarship is not doable. You cannot access scholarship. You go and check their portal, they will tell you that almost 500 students have, or 1,000 number of students have access to scholarship. But if you come in real life, you cannot count up to 20 students that have an issue of scholarship. You go to issue of scholarship, they start telling the issue of BVN, all this and that. Student at a certain point, they'll get tired of going. So the scholarship, yes, the scholarship is there, but having access to the scholarship is the problem. There are some people that scholarship of 2013 up to now, they are yet to have access to it. But you go and check in their portal, it's shown that they've received scholarship, but in real sense, nobody received a penny out of scholarship. So yes, there is scholarship on paper. Yes, there is scholarship on paper. But if you come to Cardona State University, thank God you're a journalist, come to Cardona State University, ask students about it. I bet you cannot get 20 out of the whole student that can say that, okay, they've benefited. And if you see students that have benefited, check around who are their parents. It may be someone that knows someone that knows someone that they are benefiting from the scholarship. That is why this thing is not them. People that are having access to scholarship are people that will know that maybe they know someone that knows someone, their parents are in government. But we, the children of pharmacists, we don't have access to the scholarship. So the issue of scholarship is in paper. We don't have, it's not real as it is. It's not real. It's not doable.
So if you could just go back to that statement you were making earlier on about the reasons given for this hike in the fees. You ended by saying the government says it wants to make the school the best, I believe. So if you could just go on that one, please.
Yes, based on the information I got from those that attended the meeting, they said a reason why the government wants the hike in school fees because they want to make the university among the best university. It's a welcome idea, but on whose detriment? The students? Where are we going to get it? Are we the one funding the government now to take care of our education? Sir, all these things that are saying, let me make this thing clear. We are not here challenging the government or the VC or no. And we are not in total against of increment. We are matured, we are adult. We know the effect of COVID-19 hit, everything, price of crude oil, everything. We are aware of that, sir. But if you want to come and increase school fees, at least what happens to 50%? What happens to 50%? We are paying 26,000 naira. Without 26,000 naira, students are struggling to pay rent. If you go to Cardona State University, we have only few hostels that is accommodating only the female student. How much is the hostel fee? 45,000 naira. Add 45,000 naira to 26,000 naira, amounting to 70-something thousand naira, which some of these students are struggling to pay. So what about the remaining percent of students that are staying off-take? How can they accommodate? The hostel fee in Karaji is from 80,000 naira upward. So how do you expect them to pay? COVID-19 has affected our parents. Some of us that are going out to do business, none of us will be able to go out to do anything. We just resumed school and we wrote exam. Our landlords are telling us it is none of our business. We are not the person that brought COVID-19. So for the meantime that you are not around, you have to pay new rent. So we're having rent to pay, increment of school fees. Our parents are out of job. Our petty business that we are doing is not doable again. Our farms, we cannot even go to farm because of insecurity. So the thing is, we cannot do this thing. It is not doable. We cannot afford it. We are not against increment, but at least let it be of a reasonable amount that, okay, we know that we can hustle hard to get this thing. Most of our students, I have friends of mine that I like James, Victor, we contribute money. We contribute money to do these things. I can send you pictures of during break time how we used to go and hustle, sir, just to make up 26,000. Now he's at 100%, 100,000 or 150,000. That means we are going to be dropped out. And if I could just Cardona State, sir.
Pardon me, just actually adding to what you're saying now. If this increment were to go ahead, what would that do to your education, to your prospects in life as you see it?
Sir, nothing. We are out. Totally out. Because I can tell you, there is this lady in 200 level. She said, when we were writing the exam, actually, when the news came out, increment of school fees, she told me that I'm not coming back to school again. Even the exam, I'm not going to write. She said, what happened? She said, her sister just told her there's increment in the portal. If these things start, I'm telling you that 85% of students in Cardona State will be dropped out because they cannot afford it. Come to the university, come and see the student. You check the student in Cardona State University, you check the student in other state university, you will understand what I'm talking about. We are the children of the masses. So if this 100,000 naira stand, I am telling you, sir, crime in Cardona State will increase. Because if you check the rate in which crime is going on, when you start hearing from them, They will tell you that they've been neglected by the government, all this and that. So imagine a student of political science, 400 level, being a dropout because he cannot raise 100,000 naira. Do you think he can forgive the state? So we have issues. Yes, the state is suffering. Yes, there is no money in the country. We agreed. But if the country does not have the money, is it all the students that will have the money that will depend on the country to have money? So if these things stand, just know it that 85% of students in the university are going to drop out. That is just it.
Okay, let me ask you this one just before we take this further. Is there any relationship between the students' body and the school management? How would you describe the relationship between the two?
Well, it's called a father and son relationship that the father will not communicate to the son directly, but rather will write it on the notice board. Imagine in your family house, you have a notice board that instead of your dad to come and talk to you, go and do this thing, you go and write it in the notice board. Yes, there is a relationship, but the relationship is not too cordial to an extent, because I felt that the school should be doing more of this than us, which they told us that they've done their best. That's why it has been reduced from 150 to 100,000. But still, yes, the school is supportive, but we believe they can do more because they are the ones that interact with the students daily. They see how we struggle to pay our school fees. They are in charge of the ICT, they're in charge of the portal, so they know from what range to what range so person have paid their school fees, so person have paid their school fees. So before even letting it go to the portal, they would have called the attention of the state government and said, look at how these students struggle to pay this thing. Look at how these students struggle to pay this thing. If there's going to be any increment, this student cannot pay. So we are expecting more of that from the school, which based on my own, we are not getting that 100% support from the school.
Well, we have to thank you very much for being a part of our conversation this morning. Silvanus Bulus is a student of the Cardona State University.
Yeah, so let's move on now to Mr. Shehu Mohammed, who is the Commissioner for Education for Cardona State. Good morning, and thank you for joining us on the program. Well, we heard the student there and the professor, but first the student saying that at the moment, 300% increase. If it stays that way, you'll have about 85% of the students will drop out. Yes, the school says, the authorities there say they want to make Cardona State University the best. But is that what the state wants? About 85% dropping out? Why this increase?
Thank you very much. Good morning, and good morning, our viewers. I'm happy to be with you this morning. I'm happy with some of the comments of the students and the prof. From them, let me pick a few issues. I'm happy the girl that spoke on behalf of the students said that they have enjoyed free education before coming to the university. And I also love the statement from the male guy who said that he believes and he agreed that government want to make the university a better place for learning. You see, let's go back and see what are the provisions of in our status books. The Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, the National Policy on Education, and the Kano State Policy on Education have all spoken very well, in very clear terms about the role of government in basic education, post-basic education, and tertiary education. All the provisions clearly stated that government should provide free basic education. That we are doing very well. Check our records from 2015 to date. Not less than 26% of our budget every year goes to education. In 2015, 36 billion went to education. In 2016, 43 billion went to education. In 2017, 64.85 billion went to education. In 2018, 60.4 billion went to education. In 2019, 66.6. In 2020, 61.3. And in 2021, 26%. We are taking care of our basic education that's in Cardona State is free and compulsory. And just check, you have your team, let them go around. We provide free uniform, We feed students in our boarding institutions. We provide furniture. From that day to day, we have built over 970 classrooms. We have provided uniforms. We are building new 7 science secondary schools. We are building...
To address a lot of the issues that they've raised, so that's why we're just coming in because of the time as well.
I just want to tell you what we are doing and what the Constitution and the policies have demanded from government of Kaduna State.
Okay, but you haven't spoken about why that increase happened, though.
I will speak about that. Certainly, that's the purpose of this meeting, discussion. In tertiary education, it's an issue of joint venture between government and everybody. And I love the statement from the girl that says they enjoy free education throughout before coming to the university. So that we have done. But in the university, you cannot give free education in the university. And I wish Prof, in his submission, have told us how much Abia State University students are paying for Kaduna State students to listen. The hike is necessary. And of course, the students also have agreed that it's need for the hike. If you look at 26,000 naira in CASU, they are paying since 2004 to date. There was never a time it was increased formally. Each time there was an attempt to increase that fee, something of this nature will come up and government will drop the idea. I don't think we should be intimidated with this, particularly when the students even agree that there is need for increment. The total amount of money the university is raising with 26,000 naira from students cannot pay the salary of the whole staff of the university for 2 months. I want to assure you that even with 150,000 naira we said they should pay, they can only raise 3 billion. And they demand more than 5 billion naira to run the university only on salary, not even overhead. We are committed to providing quality education in our tertiary institutions, not really CASU. And let me tell you by statistics, I don't want to do what others have done by assertions. Let's say a Faculty of Medicine, where they are admitting only 50 students. At a time, you find that over 500 will be qualified for admission. They have passed the JAM, they have passed every process, and they are legitimate students for admission into medicine.
Yeah. Okay, but Mr. Mohammed, they didn't say they oppose the increase. What the students say is that, yes, they understand the situation, they appreciate that the school, the authorities want to make it the best of the standard. That's welcome, but they think, what about a 50% increase, for instance? Because if 300% increase without any notice, they say, look, where are they going to get the money from? Because the petty traders, salary earners.
I would arrive there. If you look at, when you pick 50 out of 500, we made a study and said, okay, the 450 that are unable to be admitted, where are they? For 2 years. Some of them ended up changing their courses, certainly, but majority were able to pay fees in private universities, and some even flew out of the country. So which one is better? For you to hike your fees, for you to get more money, to increase the carrying capacity of the university to admit 100, 150 and the rest, and retain them home with few amount? Which one is better? Do you want to remain with 50 carrying capacity and allow all the rest to fly out of the country? If they had allowed the registration to continue, 80% of those will have registered by now. Why did they disrupt the registration? Why did they prevent them from registering? When you are saying 80% will not register, but the point I want to make, and I want the student to listen to, if you had allowed registration to continue, over 80% will have registered by now. And those who legitimately make complaint will handle their complaints and will see it clearly. Allow the process to take place. Allow registration to continue. Allow students, you cannot state coup d'etat on your leadership that are going from one office to another to negotiate for the reduction. You decide to put them aside and create a new leadership. That's not correct. And that's why you're not getting the right information. That's why you cannot get it right. If you want things from government, there are procedures, there are processes. Through the leadership, approach the leadership. For me, if you had allowed the student to register, I would have seen the number of students that would be able to register and see those that will not be able to register. But why did you disrupt that? This is very serious. We need to hike fees because we want to get more money. We cannot spend in Kaduna State. I will tell you, for the last 6 months, we are spending about 93% of our internally.
Just one moment, Mr. Mohammed. Yeah, you just said now, and I think it's one of the things that, perhaps the students are also worried about. You just said now that there is a need to hike the fees because government needs to raise more money. Is it only about money as opposed to, just a moment, is it only about money as opposed to serving the students? Because if government says the children, the students, the youth are leaders themselves, and we're giving this indication to them, I'm wondering if it was really thought through properly. For instance, you said, government did this based on data. Was there also data conducted as to how the students are able to raise the school fees that they paid, and where they're going to get money to up the rest of it, to balance up the 300% increase? Because if they are not able to raise the money that government is asking for, the implication is quite clear. Many of them will drop out. Did government also factor in the possibility of what could happen if the students drop out of school?
Thank you very much. Let me tell you, this increase in fee in the university is only an issue now. We have a state-owned institution, the Cardona State College of Nursing and Midwifery, that is paying similar amount long ago. People have not complained. Cardona State School of Nursing and Midwifery have been paying from 85,000 naira to 120,000 naira to register. It's not a degree program. It's not a university. Before we came up with this, we studied what others are paying, particularly states that are very serious about education, including the Abia State University. Go to Kwara State University. Go to Oyo State University. Go to even Sokoto State University in the north here. Go to Benue State University, Kogi State University. So when you make an assessment and see how much should I charge reasonably that will contribute to the run of a university, that the university can sustain itself. Even if you pay 150,000 naira, I'm telling you, you're only raising about 3 billion naira. And what we say to ourselves, if we put this amount, let's see students' registration process and let's monitor it. But the student disrupted it. If they had allowed it to continue, we will know exactly how many people would not be able to register. And let me give you this example, information for the sake of our viewers and listeners. The scholarship board is paperless. It's a paperless board. You need to go in. We have 3 types of scholarship. We have the merit-based scholarship. We have the need-based scholarship. We also have the scholarship for the disabled people. The merit-based scholarship is on merit, regardless of your social background. Once you merit it, you are passed through the process, you've scored certain points, you are given the scholarship. Either you're going to study in Nigeria or outside Nigeria. It is the need-based scholarship that students have problem with because they don't want to comply. He said their problem is with VBN. Yes, if you want to say, yes, I'm the son of a poor person, I cannot afford loan, I want to get scholarship, prove it. The only way to prove it here is civil servant, bring your pay slip. Let's verify it through that VBN. Majority of what we have seen, people can afford it. They are getting salary that they can pay salary school fees, but they will not. So I will advise them, let them go back to the same portal. We know we have given scholarship to thousands of students. Stop that intimidation of children not to go there. You have a way out. Don't suggest way out to students. Allow them to go to the natural process through the web and do it themselves. We don't want to deal with any union because we are not going to extract any amount from the use of these children to any union for facilitating anything. If as an individual student can go on the web, register, the system will ask you to download X, Y, and Z documents, do it. And at the end of the day, your account will be credited. No intermediary, no third party. This is what we are fighting with the students. So I want to assure you and the listeners and viewers that the scholarship board is dishing out scholarship. If you have not, okay, apart from the scholarship,
no, just a minute, Mr. Mohammed.
Do you know
what we get from, correct this if it's wrong, what we seem to hear from you is, first you say they disrupted that and the authorities are not happy that they disrupted that process because it would have culminated into perhaps maybe more money than you would have done something about it. And then some of those who you say left, they pay higher in private universities. So is the state university now comparing itself with the private universities? Is that the level they want to get to? Because if it gets there, you know clearly that it's not everyone that can afford the fees that the private universities pay.
Get it right. I mentioned states that we look at their fees that are equivalent to ours. Some are even more than that of ours. I mentioned states. What I said was that if students couldn't get admission in the state university because of the carrying capacity of the university, we made a study and found out that a lot of them change their courses. A lot of them decide to go to private university and pay higher. A lot of them also fly out. So we said, let us increase the fee so that we can give this money back to the university so that the university can increase its own carrying capacity. It is not a responsibility of government alone to provide tertiary education. It's a responsibility of all, including parents. But are you aware that our scholarship that students access, they are collecting over 100,000 naira as scholarship for those that merit it? And they go to the university and pay 26,000 naira. Are you aware of that? Are you aware that we have a loan scheme? We drop over 2 billion naira in FCMB. If you are unable to access the scholarship, even if it's 150,000 naira fee, you can go to the loan scheme and take 150,000. If you are running a 4-year program or 5-year program, how much does that translate to? But only about 20 million naira has been utilized. All the students are saying, or others are telling them to tell us, is that they don't want loan, they must get it free as scholarship. No state in this country and no country in the world will provide scholarship to every student that have applied. And I want to advise students that go back to the portal, apply for the scholarship. When you merit it, you will get it. We still have funding for that.
Okay.
We are urging all students across the country from Cardona State, go to the portal, apply either merit-based scholarship.
Right. Commissioner, let me just put this in. We get that. We get that point. Just on a final note, because I recall you were comparing the state to other state universities and how much they pay. You mentioned Oyo State. Oyo State just recently slashed the tuition fees for LAUTECH by 25% thereabout. And interestingly, when you look at the states, that's Kaduna and Oyo, compare the IGR that Kaduna gets compared to what Oyo State gets. Kaduna, 50 billion. Oyo 38 billion. So clearly Kaduna is doing better than Oyo State in terms of IGR. So when you compare as well, some ask, is there still a rationale behind that increase to raise more funds when your state actually makes more than Oyo State?
And if the IGR is only to pay for education, only Kaduna State University, can you compare Kaduna State and Oyo State in terms of providing infrastructure? Can they also give the same
You did a comparison of the schools, so I brought that IGR, since we're talking about revenue, so I brought that up as well, yes, so we can weigh the indices.
Let me tell you, we are not only spending about 5 billion naira in paying teacher salaries and other allowances in Kaduna State University. We are building a new university. Go to our new site, send your media team to go and find out. The permanent site of Kaduna State University has got over 10 billion naira as we speak now. Okay, and I will tell you, KASU is not only tertiary institution.
Well, in addition to that, we also know Cardona also gets more federal allocation than those states that you equally mentioned. But in conclusion, ASU, they are kicking about the sacking of those lecturers. Is the government going to reconsider? Because they say no due process was followed, no query, no letters, nothing whatsoever. They just heard that they've been sacked.
You see, Prof has raised issues and he has responded to himself by himself. He doubts the list. He didn't get it officially. He is still finding out. And there's no reason why I should comment on it. The point I would just make, any lecturer or anybody, for whatever case, instigate students or decide to go into a schedule that's not his and decide to provoke people, cause unrest, certainly will face the wrath of the law through the normal process. Prof has said that they are not sure. They didn't get it officially. No staff of KASU University has given me a copy of his dismissal letter. So why is it an issue?
Basically, were they sacked because they participated in the NLC strike?
Get back what he said. He said no.
No, I'm asking a different question now. Why were they sacked?
Who sacked them? Get back to him who brought the issue.
No, the question, Commissioner, is why were the lecturers sacked?
The issue is that if somebody is sacked, you should be able to show his document, a paper from the university that has been sacked. That's number one. Number two, I want to tell you, if anybody is able to show you that, then come and see the process. Normal process have been followed. He is even talking of the University Governing Council. You do that there's no Governing Council in the university for now. But again, I want to tell you there are procedures, there are processes.
All right.
If somebody engages himself in a process that is not academic, it's not research, it's not community work, and instigates students to do something that is irrational, something that is unacademic to what he's trying to do, certainly you face the wrath of the law. But now
okay, so they were sacked because they participated in the NLC strike. Because that's non-academic.
They have been sacked. I'm hearing for the first time from you now.
You're just hearing that they've been sacked as Commissioner for Education?
If they are sacked, I should know. I should be in a good position to know. And I'll tell you
so
the number.
At the moment,
I'll tell you their offenses.
From what you know, are they sacked or not as Commissioner?
For me, they have not been sacked. We are investigating their roles, including those that have not, he have not even seen their list. I agree with him. There are procedures.
So their role in the protest, in the NLC protest.
What joy will the university drive from sacking its lecturer that they have trained?
So we don't get it wrong, Prof. Commissioner. Is it their role in the NLC strike that is being investigated?
For me, I am yet to get that on my table. When I get it,
you said you are investigating their role. So I'm asking, their role in what?
When I say their rules of investigating, the Kasu University, Kasu as a university, as they have their management, they will do their investigation. They will submit their formal report. There are decisions they can take without talking to anybody because the rules are very clear. So if we get that, we'll get a copy and I can defend it anywhere.
Okay. All right. Unfortunately, we need to go. But if you could make this quick, is the state going to perhaps reconsider that school fees since the students say, well, we don't mind an increase, but make it 50% so we can pay?
I want to tell you that I'm happy to inform you that from the day the issue of the hike came up, very many different stakeholders have come in and we are listening to them. They are making an appeal. They are giving some suggestions, the process, and the modalities. We are looking at that. And as soon as that is concluded, we'll come out with a statement, a formal statement to address that. You see, the issue that stalled this is the demonstration of the students and preventing majority of the students to get into university to continue their normal activity. So we have to close down the university. But for me, I want to tell you, and I want to appreciate the very good intention of some stakeholders that have taken it upon themselves. Some have even provided some endowment fund that they will provide to the students to access a scholarship, and so on and so forth. We are on it. As soon as that is concluded, we'll come out with a statement through the university to announce the stand of government about the request of the public on the request for the decrease. But please allow normal academic activities to continue. That's what we are telling students.
All right,
while you're doing that, don't disrupt the system.
Okay, we'll be hoping that these issues are resolved amicably, economically as well, so that, we don't want anybody to drop out of school. We're encouraging as many people to go to school as possible, however, whichever way they can. It's all going to benefit the country, so we do hope that this will be sorted. Well, thank you very much indeed for your time this morning. Well, we will be back in a moment. Join us again. It's an assessment of sorts, but I know the dailies did point us to some figures already about the National Assembly 2 years on. What do you even think? How would you say they performed if you were to score them? Well, let's head to Abuja to get some perspectives. Marpa?
Indeed, while we're going to be getting perspectives from our guest who's here in the studio this morning, I think it's also very important that we encourage you to say how you're going to rate your representative or your senator at the National Assembly, or in general, how you rate the National Assembly in terms of how they fared so far. Don't forget that I think on Saturday, June the 12th, we'll be celebrating Democracy Day, but on the 11th of June 2019, this National Assembly was inaugurated. Yes, their inauguration is closest now to our new Democracy Day. Before now, we used to celebrate Democracy Day on the 29th of May, which is the swearing in of new officers or new elected officers into office. But now it's moved to the 12th of June every year, and it was seen that the National Assembly has the closest date to that. And it's pretty significant because it's supposed to be one of the biggest institutions to celebrate democracy. They make it marked, you know, from an autocracy, so to speak. Well, yes, you've already seen my guest is none other than Mr. Clement Wankwo, who is the Executive Director of the Policy and Legal Advocacy Center. You're welcome to Sunrise Elite this morning.
Thank you, Mokbe.
Well, you work very closely with the National Assembly in terms of looking at how they're formulating laws, looking at the kinds of bills that they're formulating as well. But generally, I think normally when people would rate the National Assembly, they will rate them on representation, on the quality and maybe the quantity of bills that they have been able to formulate, and also on oversight, which is the three major areas that they are supposed to, you know, be there for. From your own assessment, how would you rate this National Assembly 2 years on?
It's a challenge. Challenge because so much has happened. We've gone through like COVID, or we're still in the COVID pandemic era, and that has had its impact on the work that the institutions all over, whether it's the National Assembly or other agencies, have been doing. I think that when you look at what has happened in the last 2 years, the National Assembly has passed 5 laws that have been assented to by the President. This is excluding the budget bills. The Senate has passed 58 bills. The House has passed 74 bills. And there are several other bills in different stages of progression. But the fact that the House has passed 78 and the Senate has 74 and the House Senate has passed 58 does not necessarily translate to anything more than that they have been passed. So the product in that sense of the number of bills passed and assented to so far is just 5, which includes the Companies and Allied Matters Act, the Police Act, the Finance Act, and these are very significant bills. The Onshore-Offshore Basin Differentiation Act and so on. So you would say when you look at the number of bills passed that not a lot has been passed and assented to by the President. Because at the end of the day, a bill only concludes when it's been assented to by the President. So,
is that also because of the failure of harmonization, or...?
Well, you do have both houses passed. For instance, the House has passed 74. The question is, how many has it sent to the Senate for concurrence? The Senate has sent 11 to the House for concurrence, and so it's still at different stages. But the reality is that it's only 5 that have passed. But there are a lot of significant bills in the National Assembly that are awaiting conclusion, and we can talk some more about it, whether it's all of the bills, and several of them are contained therein, dealing with constitutional review, or the much more urgent issue of the Electoral Act that has yet to conclude. All of these are bills that are pending. The petroleum industry bill, these are critical bills that are still pending. So I think when you look at the total number of bills passed and assented to by the President, it's only 5. But when you look at all of the bills in different levels of progression, whether it is first reading, second reading, or awaiting concurrence or assent, you do have almost 2,000 bills in the works in the National Assembly, and that's significant. The question is, when do you move on to the next stages and get as many of those bills as possible and as are reasonable to be passed into law?
To my mind, it's a very big conversation, because when you look at the impact of COVID, which you mentioned in terms of lawmaking, when you look at the fact that in recent times, in terms of representation, the National Assembly has been very concerned about the issue of security. Only recently, the House of Representatives raised the issue and had a summit it was same on security matters. Many times there have been many conversations around security in the House and also in the Senate as well. So there'll be questions in terms of representation, how Nigerians are getting their voices heard, and whether or not with the emergence, especially with how the leadership of this current National Assembly emerged, whether there could be a real check-in of the executive, or even, I mean, there's supposed to be a balance of power amongst the three arms of government, whether or not they have been able to be firm, it would seem, in terms of checking executive powers as a vibrant arm of government. In your own assessment, how would you rate them?
Well, you did at the beginning mention the three critical roles of the legislature, which is that of lawmaking, oversight, and representation. And in terms of lawmaking, we've already talked about the number of bills pending in National Assembly, the number of bills actually passed and assented to by the president, which is 5. On oversight, I think that there are issues that arise from oversight. The question is, what is the effectiveness of the oversight measures being taken by the National Assembly? We
haven't quite come to oversight, because, I mean, even that is another kettle of fish. There have been things that have come up recently. But in terms of representation, I mean, when you see members oftentimes coming to the floor, raising issues concerning their own constituencies in the House, on the floor of the Senate as well, would you say that they have been vibrant enough in terms of, you know, owning their space as representatives, as true representatives of the people?
I think for a lot of us who have had the experience of watching parliaments walk around the world, but even within Nigeria, you go back to the Second Republic, and we remember with nostalgia the fact that Senate President Joseph Wayas could summon President Shehu Shagari, and when he comes, he will be tame within the National Assembly, which was in Tafawa Balewa Square in Lagos then, and I was a student then. I used to go and watch proceedings, and it was, for me, very exciting watching the power of the legislature. Legislative heads were not, or presiding officers were not chosen through the bully of the executive. Unfortunately, all of those positive aspects of our presidential system seem to be reducing, and you do have a case in Nigeria today that you have the executive interfering in the ability of elected members to choose their presiding officers. And I think when that happens, when the executive bullies and gets its choice of presiding officers, it has its own effect on the boisterousness of the legislature, and that has impact on the ability of the legislature to function. You also have a situation then that when you do have a situation like that, and presiding officers in some ways become gatekeepers for the executive, that has its own challenges. But I think that it is up to the members themselves. Presiding officers and principal officers are chosen by the members. And I think it's up to the members themselves to assert the role that they have to play. The fact that they represent their citizens, they represent their constituents, and they are equals, even with their presiding officers. They are the ones that chose one of themselves as equals to become presiding officers. So those who are chosen in that position are not necessarily any more important than the members themselves. But when the members find that they are not getting the support of those that they have put in those positions, then it's up to them to respond as appropriate to the challenges that they are faced with. But yes, constituents are complaining. Constituents do want specific things done. They do want representation in a particular way. And when you look around the country today, you get worried about where the country is descending to. And I think that the challenge for members is to be able to read appropriately what the mood of the nation is and challenge in the National Assembly for government to respond to what the citizens want.
I totally hear you, and I understand what you're trying to say when you say the executive interfered in terms of the emergence of the leadership of the National Assembly. However, those who who might be there, or those on the other side will say, no, there was no executive interference. There was an interference by the party, of the ruling party, which produced the leadership and majority members of the National Assembly. Is there a problem with that? Should we differentiate between the party and the executive arm of government?
I think it's important. The party itself has a responsibility to decide who its leadership is in the National Assembly or anywhere else. And I'm speaking in a broad context when I talk about executives seeking to interfere. I think that the party has the right to make a decision about who, if a party is in a majority, who they want to support to emerge. But ultimately, the decision to choose, the decision to vote, is in the hands of those who are elected. And when you look at the voting that is going on, the majority party in legislative houses, and this is beyond the National Assembly, it could be the states as well, the majority party, the members themselves, and it's been something that members of the National Assembly have always tried to assert, that they have the right to make a choice as to who leads them. And those who aspired, even in the 9th Assembly, are people who went to their members, they campaigned, and they jostled and got elected. But my point of view is that you really must have a situation where those decisions are made entirely by the members, no interference from the executive. And I think when that happens, you do have a National Assembly that is well-placed, well-positioned to carry out the 3 rules outlined for it in the Constitution.
Do you think it has had any effect, though, on their representation, on their power of representation?
Well, the point is that if you do have presiding officers popularly chosen, then the respect is there, and then they also know that they have been voted for by their members, and they have a responsibility to the institution, to their members. And I think that's where the difference is. Where that is not the case, then it becomes a challenge who they feel allegiance to.
Mm. Well, I would really love to extend the conversation on representation, especially when you look at the fact that there have been attempts to invite the president over matters of security and legalese. It would seem have stepped in the way, and there have been questions as to why the National Assembly hasn't gone any further in that regard, or even raised any objections to the fact that what they did was a mere invitation. I mean, they were not even... well, let's leave that one. Let me move to the area of oversight. You have talked about the effect of COVID-19. That will definitely come to play. But in the area of oversight, where we have seen, where committees have now started sitting, oftentimes they go to project site or go to the ministries, departments and agencies that are supposed to be overseen to see how the budget has been spent. We might not be privy to all of that, but when they're invited to the National Assembly, when these people in the different ministries, departments and agencies are invited to the National Assembly, oftentimes the media is invited, and sometimes what we have seen play out on TV screens have not been too pleasant. When you see members more than often now frequently complaining about how people who have been invited from these ministries, departments and agencies are not showing up. Although when they do, they come with very little information. Case in point, something that happened recently, I think a member saying that maybe the National Assembly should be shut down because the CBN governor and a number of other people who were invited to their own committee hearing didn't show up. What are your thoughts in terms of the powers of the National Assembly to oversight? Do you think that those powers are respected, or are those powers being overlooked?
I think it's 2 things. One, the National Assembly itself needs to organize and structure itself to be able to ensure that you do not have too much invitation to members of the executive. And we've had a situation where you have, whether it's a CBN governor or indeed any other person, sometimes they get invited by different committees at different times and they have to show up. And so when it gets so frequent, it becomes, in some ways, difficult to be managed by the executive. But beyond that, the powers of the National Assembly to summon a public official or a person who has use of the public purse is overwhelming. It's stated in the Constitution, and I think it's something that the National Assembly needs to fine-tune its oversight hearings to be able to have it strategically and well organized to get the best results. But the executive always has to have a responsibility of responding to invitations by the National Assembly. And I would think, for instance, even the president, it would be a wonderful opportunity to go to the National Assembly, to speak to the people's representatives and say, this is the work that we have done. These are the achievements we have made. What are your concerns? These are explanations over your concerns. That's the whole purpose of these oversight hearings. And I think that the executive fails to take advantage of this a lot of times, and it creates the friction that it creates. I think that if there are concerns within the executive about being invited so many times, they need to work out with the National Assembly the best way to get the best results from inviting people to come to oversight hearings in the National Assembly.
As we wind down now, questions have already been raised on the Senate's power of scrutiny, it would seem, especially with regards to appointments and, with regards to appointments. Only recently, I think yesterday, the Senate President did read that the President's letter to screen INEC commissioners, and controversy has emerged over the appointment of one of the commissioners who is obviously one of the President's aide. I don't know what your thoughts are with regards to that, because there have been increasing questions as to the thoroughness of the Senate scrutiny of, people who have been appointed by the President.
I think that always, especially with INEC and such other independent bodies, the need for nominees to be not just non-partisan, but to be perceived as not being partisan is so very important. And I think it's a big mistake to nominate someone who is a presidential aide, especially even handling political matters or to try to nominate such a person into INEC. It would be something that I hope that the INEC committee in the Senate that has this responsibility, and I did listen to Senator Kabiru Gaya yesterday evening speaking about this as well. I think that it's something that I hope the committee understands the need to ensure that the Electoral Commission has non-partisan persons in it. And I know that the committee is one of the most productive, very excellent committee, and I know that the chairman and members of the committee are going to be very conscious of this.
Should they have come up at all?
Certainly, I think that nominating an aide of the president or indeed a political actor into the commission is unacceptable, and my hope is that the Senate understands that the sanctity and independence of the Electoral Commission needs to be protected.
Well, Mr. Clement Wankwa, we have to thank you for your time. As I said, it's a big conversation, can be finished in one sitting, and I believe it's something that is definitely ongoing. Thank you so much for sharing your thoughts, Joe, on this particular matter. 2 years of the National Assembly in session. What are your thoughts in terms of how that has fed? But thank you so much.
Thank you,
Mr. Clement Wankwa is the Executive Director of Policy and Legal Advocacy Center. I believe we already have some of your emails already. Yes, I see this one from Demola Alalade assessing the 9th NAS. He says the 9th National Assembly has not done anything different from what the past NAS members have done. Nigerians have not felt the difference as the status quo remains. The people don't have direct access to the lawmakers once they go to Abuja, as most of them disconnect from their constituents. The solution is for them to operate more within their constituency for better representation.
Well, look at this one from Abiodun Akinjayeju on the Cardona University on says, Cardona State government has approached the fee increase wrongly, both in concept and in its implementation. We must concede that funding education is not cheap, not the least a university education. And that is why certain level of education is considered a social service in many societies, but not a university education. When a university has admitted students into a 4 or 5 years program on the basis of certain specific fee proposition, the government cannot increase such fees astronomically as it is being done now. It is immoral, it is ungodly. You must allow those existing students to complete their program on the basis of that initial fee, subject to minimal adjustments to cope with the price level changes. Maybe a 10% increase annually, but a 300% increase in one fell swoop is patently faulty, whatever justification the government may have on the increase. The 300% increase must have to start from new intakes into the university. By so doing, those being admitted know from the outset what they are signing up to, and there are templates to learn from.
Victor is also mailing on that issue, saying, listening to the young man and with the passion he speaks, you will know he wants to succeed as well as his colleagues. I pray the government does something to ease their pains. It will be poor for a final year student to drop out at the threshold of a degree. At the same time, also, I believe the government should institute a students' loan scheme such that everybody can get an education, and loan payback time will be spread for a period of 5 to 10 years. With this, I believe we as a people will have more people going to school, and all this back and forth will cease.
On the same thing, Soriki is saying, I sympathize with the students in KASU, and also agree that government must have thought it through. But please, where else in this country does state university tuition pegged at 26,000 naira? There is, however, the need for government to be sympathetic to the students by coming to a reasonable amount.
Yabubat ends up with this one, talking about Cardona hiking university fees. The idea is good, but the implementation is poor. He suggests, or she, as the case might be, suggests a waiver for final year students, a loan or scholarship for others, and new intake to pay. That's his take. And thank you so much for sending in your takes and your stance on this matter, even though, you know, it would seem that the platforms through which you can share your thoughts are being reduced, but at least you're making good use of the one that we have. Thank you so much for contributing. We do not take it for granted. Thank you for watching this morning. I'm Maokwe Ogun Yusuf.
I'm Kayode Okikelu.
I'm Ayo Makine. Have a wonderful day.
I'm Chamberlain Oso. See ya.